As much as I hate seeing gamers constantly attacked these days, being called out for demanding better content, labeled as toxic for pointing out flaws, I have to say they've got a point when it comes to the Silent Hill 2 remake. When you're remaking a classic like this, you need to nail the atmosphere, the psychological depth, and most importantly, keep what made the original so hauntingly brilliant intact. Sadly, that's not what we got here. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Demon, and today we're taking a look at the Silent Hill 2 remake, a game that has stripped away everything that made the original iconic, especially that legendary fog, which was not just a technical limitation but a core part of the game's oppressive atmosphere. So, buckle up because this is going to be rough. First off, the fog, or rather the lack of it. The original Silent Hill 2 used fog not just to mask the limitations of the PS2, but to create a claustrophobic, eerie sense of isolation. It gave the town its identity, shrouding it in mystery and confusion, much like the internal struggle of James Sunderland himself. In the remake, the fog has been thinned to the point of being laughable, traded in for cleaner, crisper visuals that rob the game of its soul. The atmosphere just isn't there. Without the fog, the town doesn't feel oppressive, and that sense of dread that followed you in the original gone. Now let's talk about the characters, and more importantly, the uglification of the cast. The original game was a masterclass in using character design to reflect James's desires, guilt, and psychological trauma. Pyramid Head, for example, isn't just a monster for the sake of having a monster. He's a walking embodiment of James's need for punishment, an unstoppable force of guilt. The remake? Sure, Pyramid Head looks as menacing as ever, but the connection to James feels diluted. And then there are the nurses. In the original, they weren't exactly the overtly sexy, grotesque creatures from the movies, but due to the limitations of the PS2, their designs were simple, functional, and still unsettling. The remake sticks to this design, but it feels like a missed opportunity. With modern tech, they could have been updated to reflect the seductive yet monstrous creatures seen in the films, which would have better illustrated James's twisted desires. But no, we're stuck with nurses that feel bland compared to what they could have been. The remake fails to push these symbolic figures further, which is a shame given the visual potential today. What Silent Hill 2 nailed back in the day was subtlety and symbolism. Everything in that game, from the setting to the monsters, reflected James's internal demons. The remake, while beautiful in terms of graphical fidelity, feels shallow by comparison. It's as if the developers didn't fully grasp the depth of the original and were more focused on making everything look pretty for modern consoles. But let's face it, Silent Hill was never about being pretty. It was about unsettling you, about making you question every step you took. In conclusion, the Silent Hill 2 remake is yet another example of modern gaming's obsession with visual flair over substance. Sure, it's nice to look at, but when a game that's supposed to be about psychological horror loses its atmosphere and depth, all you're left with is a pretty shell. The fog is gone. The characters feel less connected to James's psyche, and the atmosphere that made the original so powerful has evaporated into thin air, much like the game's fog itself. I'm Snake Demon, and this has been the Snake Pit. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like the video, and leave your opinions in the comments, where of course I won't read them.